morning, it's Yvonne here to do your What's Cracking reading. Let's start off with some basics, shall we? Scammers. I see everybody's having them at the moment. Please don't get sucked in by them. Never think that I would ever push you to have a reading, ever. It's just not in my nature to do that. It's not something I believe in. Somebody approaches you about a reading, it is not me, regardless. If you want to try a reading with someone else, then I would suggest you do it the right way and really have a look into it. I have a video up the front of my channel which tells you how to make sure you get a reading that really works with you. Don't trust people who push you to take readings. It's not the way we do things when we're spiritual. At the very most, people will put up readings at a discount price or maybe give you some sort of free reading, but we would never chase you to give you a reading. It just doesn't work that way. I want to say a big thank you to you all for your support too, especially when we get such potent messages coming in from the universe. It is really beautiful to know that they are resonating with you and that you're getting something from it. That makes what I do really worthwhile. As most of you know, I've been doing this for a very long time, and I honestly and utterly believe that my work is to help you in whichever way I can. And if that means bringing the messages to you that you need to hear, then I will continue to do the work. If you would like a personal reading with me, you can book via my website at www.theaussiegoddess.com. If it's very easy, there's a system there in the shop where you can book your own reading, your time and how you'd like to receive the reading. It's completely in your hands. If you're unsure if there's any issue or problem, or you can't find a time frame that's suitable, always email me because I will double check whether I've got some time to do it outside of those hours. A big thank you to those people who've been joining me live on YouTube on Wednesdays and doing the super chats. I really enjoy doing those. I wish I had time to do more, or lives, I mean, not so much super chats, but lives. I really do enjoy the interaction, so I'll see if I can find some more time moving forward. But in the mornings, doing the 5 readings 4 days a week is quite time consuming on top of my normal workload. So I would like to have more time on my hands, but I know how much you all appreciate those readings. Okay, I think I've got everything. I do have the Muse Tarot to read for you this morning. I'm already feeling it's like going to be quite an intense few days. I feel like there's a lot of energy in the universe of change. So, all right. So we have the Three of Wands coming through. The Three of Wands is a card that talks about waiting for your ships to come in. It's a card you often see when you are manifesting that says, you know, you're waiting for your manifestation to come to fruition. But it is a picture of somebody standing there waiting for their ships to come in. It's a very future-focused card, but it doesn't control, it doesn't push the future. It just says that you're standing, waiting, and allowing things to unravel the way they need to. So very much this energy of being patient and just waiting for things to turn out the way they're meant to. All right, we have the Hierophant coming through here. Now, the Hierophant talks about large organizations, big structures, governments, churches. It's really a card of tradition, organization, can represent the church and tradition. But whatever this is here, the main theme around the Hierophant is a stable energy. It's like everything is in order here. Everything is structured. That's why it's represented here by the sign of Taurus. It's a very structured, straightforward energy. So what this says to me is I feel that you've got to a place in your life where you may be feeling quite stable and quite at home where you are. You may be very comfortable in your own skin, and you may be prepared to wait for what the universe brings your way. Some of the things we learn in this lifetime are things like the patience it takes, trusting the universe, trusting that we are doing what we need to do. But the biggest lesson for us in this lifetime is learning how to discard the ego, or those components of the ego that aren't really serving us. The ego is what holds you back from having what you feel that you can achieve by standing in your own energy. It will always tell you that you're not good enough, that it can't be done, that everything's going to hold you back, and it will keep you trapped in your past because your ego feels safe in your past. As soon as you start to challenge those energies, your ego will kick in and tell you that you're wrong, that you can't believe it, that you can't trust it. So learning to differentiate between the ego and your spiritual self is your first main lesson. But your ego is impatient, it's intolerant, it gets angry, it perceives any threat to it as something as it's got to stop you from doing. So it will always be defensive, negative, and victimy. That's all ego energy. And I feel like here, whatever you're doing in this Three of Wands, you're being completely the opposite to that. You're being patient, you're being tolerant, you're putting love into who you are. You are accepting, Spirit is talking about acceptance. Whatever it is, you are standing in your power here. And that means with the Hierophant, you are achieving a beautiful sense of balance, of being in the right place at the right time to receive. So we have the Nine of Swords coming through here. So this is really ego energy with the Nine of Swords. This is the energy of anxiety, stress, worry, fear, not being able to sleep at nights, but allowing your fears to overtake you. And a lot of people wrote to me yesterday about anxiety, because anxiety is something that some of us suffer from really quite greatly because of our own fears and our own restrictions around who we are. So we keep ourselves bound in our anxiety because we are scared to take chances or scared to take risks. And we become so risk averse that we don't allow ourselves an opportunity to grow. It's really funny because somebody had said to me that I'd mentioned that yesterday in my reading, and I don't always remember what I've said in my readings. If Spirit sort of shows me a picture or a vision or something that I've been through, I know now that I have to talk about it, which I wouldn't do for many years. I was so ashamed and so guilt-ridden about what had happened to me over my lifetime that I always felt it was embarrassing to talk to anybody about. And you see, once I realized it was like a normal response to things, I started to understand that was part of what I needed to do, was to share that. So I obviously did yesterday. So what happens is when I'm reading, Spirit will often flash something into my mind to remind me of something that I can give you as an example as to how you can move through something. I remember somebody saying to me, you can't heal anxiety. And I remember thinking, you know what? I've watched people heal the most dreadful journeys that they have been on. What is it about anxiety that I cannot heal? And I have to say to you, 99% of me does not get anxious. It does not anymore. I'm completely aware of it. As soon as I start to feel it, I'm just completely accepting of it now. I just know that's part of who I am. I still have a little bit of what I call nighttime anxiety. So when I wake up at night, and I'm starting to work with that very, very well. But when I wake up at nighttime, sometimes my mind's already drifted off into the what ifs. But for the most part, I was absolutely incapacitated. I couldn't eat when I had a panic disorder. I couldn't eat. I couldn't watch television. I was terrified. I could not get off the floor. And I was like that for 6 months. I couldn't do anything. I had to let my children go to someone else to look after them because my body was so weak. I lost so much weight. I couldn't eat because I was terrified of eating. I was terrified of watching the television. I was terrified of everything. Couldn't even get outside the door. And I remember being so wound up with that and not really knowing. And I remember somebody saying to me, oh, just have a couple of beers, you'll be fine. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't think so. So I went to doctors and their answer was like, just have some Valium. I guess I looked like a neurotic woman, but I didn't understand what was going on. And I remember a person I knew from many years ago had rang me and said to me, this was really late at night, and she said to me, Yvonne, go out and get a book by Dr. Claire Weeks. And this is a woman who was like 92, I think, when she passed, and she'd written a lot of books on the neurotic states of mostly women. I think men tend to sort of use other substances and drinking generally to cope with this. I think we're getting a little better now at talking about it. But what happened was I started reading Claire Weeks's books, and they were very simple, very basic, and I got myself through the other side. I tried counselling, I tried the Valium, I tried all those things. They just didn't work because my mind could not comprehend what I was going through. But once I understood what anxiety was and that it was a normal bodily function that was just out of whack, that was when the healing started. And after 6 months, I went back to work. I found it quite difficult to start with, but my life went straight back on track again. So if you're wondering about that, I hope that helps. But Dr. Claire Weeks, brilliant books. I'm not even sure if you can get them now, but you might be able to get them on the internet for those of you who are going through anything like that. Amazing woman. I don't know that many people have ever heard of her, but amazing stories. Anyway, so the Nine of Swords for me is exactly that energy. It's being in your head, unable to sleep, the anxiety takes over, and you're restless and overthinking everything. But there is something coming to you here with this Ace of Swords. Now, the Ace of Swords for me, and we have the Six of Pentacles behind that. The Ace of Swords is about a new start. It's a new beginning, and it's one that starts in truth. So if we have a look back here, you're waiting for a future here. You're waiting for something to come to you. You're waiting for things to unravel the way they need to. Then you see the Hierophant, and we know that you've got this beautiful energy of being in a place where you're feeling really calm and relaxed, possibly after some anxious times here. Something has changed here. And now you're walking into this beautiful truth of who you are. And I always say, when you know who you are, when you're standing in your truth, when you've started to understand the human condition, you can start to create with the universe here. Now, the devil energy's here, so that makes a whole lot of sense for me. And we have the Ten of Wands. So you're closing out a pattern of doing something. And the devil does talk about our fears, our anxieties. It can talk about other things as well. But I feel like in this representation, it's talking about the negativity, the things that bring you down, the thoughts you have about yourself. Some of that ego stuff that we talked about in the beginning, which the devil really does represent, is being somehow understood here. Now, I think that a lot of the time we do talk about healing. What we're talking about is understanding, because often when you know, all of a sudden what you've been worried about doesn't worry you anymore. Once you see it, once you understand it. But it's not a general understanding, it's a deep understanding of what is happening. And once you understand the ego, I feel like it's so much easier to understand why you respond and react in the ways you do, in accordance with what you've been taught. So the first time you speak up for yourself and you use your voice and you're assertive, it can be the most terrifying thing that you've ever done in your life. And I don't think people will understand that, because I mean, some of the reason I got on the YouTube channel in the first place was because of, not liking who I was, not liking my voice, some of that. And I've done a lot of work. But I feel like the work that I have done has been to understand the differences, to understand what I'm capable of, to understand who I am at a core level. So I feel like this says to me that there is something here you're clearing out with that Ten of Wands in order to understand how to live your life differently, but come from a very different perspective this time. Now, I understand this reading is not going to be for everyone, but I feel like somehow or another Spirit said to me this morning when I woke up, there was a lot of responses on my comments, and I had emails around the stress and anxiety. Okay, all right, let's get into it. Okay, so we have here the Nine of Wands as well. All right, so some of you are cycling that pattern as we speak, because the Nine of Wands talks about the wounded warrior. It talks about going round and round and round and round and creating harm for yourself. So some of you are in that cycle at the moment. But I feel with that devil energy and that 10 of Wands, you're starting to either understand or grasp here what is going on. All right, so we have the King of Cups coming through here. Somebody has put you on the path of healing because you've got the Strength card coming through. The King of Cups can represent a male figure, like a father figure for me, and we have the Star. Sometimes I look at cards and I think, wow, I just haven't looked at them before. Isn't that stunning? And I've seen it so many times, but just sometimes I put the card down and I think, I just never saw the beauty of it before. Okay, so there is something here you're learning as part of your pathway. The Strength card always talks to me about what you hide in your shadow. So, for example, let's talk about the anxiety and stress, because wherever that's come from, it's something, as I said before, that you may be ashamed of, or may come from fear or doubt or shame that you've carried around with you since you were young. And I feel like here with the Strength card, you may be starting to understand it with the Nine of Wands here. So you're starting to see the pattern. You're becoming the observer. You're starting to watch how you see things and how you do things here. Now, the King of Cups for me sort of looks a little odd in the middle of all this. So I just want to go into the energy of this for a moment. The King of Cups can represent Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. And the energies, for example, probably more with Scorpio than the other two, the energies are very deep emotional thinking, emotional feeling. And I feel like here that you may be doing something where you are starting to really see your emotional responses, starting to recognize your triggers, starting to recognize what you would have seen as childhood trauma that is influencing you now. There is something in this energy here that is getting you to understand yourself at a much deeper level. And with the Star card here, I feel like it's time. Something is happening here. See, Four of Pentacles coming through. The Four of Pentacles talks about hanging on to things too tightly. We have the Fool. So you're letting go of something here and you're taking some sort of leap of faith. So this is the trust that we want in the Fool card. It starts us off on a brand new cycle in the tarot. And it's about us understanding we can trust ourselves. We can trust who we are. We carry the universe within us. We can trust who we are to make decisions and to decide things for ourselves. We can trust that we do the right thing by ourselves. And if we do feel that somehow or another we haven't come clean on that, we can go back and say, well, at least we learned that lesson, but we took the risk. And that is what is Spirit asking you to do, to take the risks. All right. As long as they're sort of somewhat safe risks, like you're not going to jump off the edge of a cliff with no parachute, like that would be ridiculous. And that's when your ego is so important, because that is where your ego will say that's completely unsafe, and that is the ego you want to have. So we have the Magician coming through here. So what we do is wow, there's quite a lot of major arcanas here again. What we are learning to do is just trust ourselves to manifest what we want. The trust that the manifestations are going to occur. We've gone from the Fool to the Magician here. And we have the Star sitting here. So it's something about you learning how to manifest the things you want, rather than looking at, I don't have them. Okay, so we have here the King of Swords coming through. Oh, with the Four of Wands. So there's a definite feeling that you're finding some sort of stability within yourself here. We have the Five of Wands coming through. I feel like for many of you with that Nine of Wands and now 5 and 4, it's like you're going, because that's the 9 again, it's like you're going backwards and forwards on it. You're still not quite sort of understanding what is your ego and what is your spirituality. And you're still sort of cycling that a little bit. Your fears are not always valid. Your fears are not always valid. Sometimes we can have fears that don't have any basis. Like we could be scared of sharks when we never go in the ocean. And the chances are pretty good that if you go in the ocean, the chance of a shark attack is pretty small. You've got more chance, I think, about being killed by a donkey kicking you or a bee sting. So the chances of getting killed by a shark are very small. So what is it that our energies get out of whack, and we don't always have valid reasons for fears? Your anxiety is about challenging those. The fears that you have, if you can challenge them through your anxiety. Say, good example, fear of flying is a great one. You can be terrified of flying, but if you choose to overcome that fear and you choose what it takes to overcome that, it will no longer scare you. It may make you a little bit apprehensive, a little bit nervous because of the history you have in your body, but once you start to challenge yourself, those fears drop back. It's a bit like the whole speaking up and saying something when you've never spoken up for yourself. The fear becomes so great that we get scared of doing that because we become overcome by that. And I can remember standing there many times going, I just want to say something. I just want to say something. I wish I could think of something to say. And I'd be having somebody yelling in my face and thinking, oh, what do I do here? And I'd go away and I think, oh, I wished I'd said that. I wished I'd thought of that. I wished I'd have spoken up for myself, and I still didn't. So the fear there is what? That somebody's going to get angry with you? What is the fear? That you're going to hurt someone's feelings? They're hurting yours at that time. What is your fear there? So the moment you start to speak, the first time may be really hard, but after that, it becomes so easy to do. It becomes a natural thing for you to do. So your anxiety is a result of your own fears. All right, let's have a look where we're going from here. So we have the 5 and 4 of Wands and we have the 9 of Wands. So both of these tell me that you're still patterning. You're still going through a pattern, but I feel like it's because you're not understanding the difference here. You're not understanding your own personal strengths. Now, what this comes down to is a lack of belief in yourself. A lack of belief of who you are and what you are truly capable of. I feel like I'm working with a lot of people on this one at the moment. But I feel like somehow or another, you're coming to a realization here, because with that Fool and Magician, it's very much this energy of just trusting the universe. And I feel like that's what you're doing. All right, so we have the energy of the 3 of Wands. So I can see you here ready, waiting for something to change. You may be waiting for that first opportunity to prove something to yourself, because you've got in the place now where you feel really comfortable with who you are. Somehow or another, you have let the anxiety go and you've stepped into your truth here with the Ace of Swords. Now, there is something you're now creating with the universe here. And I feel like here, there is sort of a letting go of fear and closing down some sort of cycle. And that includes letting go of all this heartbreak and pain that you've carried with you for a really long time. So maybe your anxieties and fears are a result of some sort of pain or suffering that you've gone through early in life that perhaps you now need to understand. I feel like, we all talk about healing, but really it's a process of understanding. All right, let's read an oracle card. That's probably the longest reading I've done in a really long time. All right. Star ancestors. Do you think that you've got people on side with you at the moment trying to get you to see something? Because this is about hidden secrets, lost wisdom, and look a little deeper. All right, let's see what this talks about. These cards have been so incredibly relevant this week, so I doubt if this one's any different. The ancients knew much more than we do about our connection with the stars. The pyramids, temples, and other places of worship created in precise alignment with the stars exist in all corners of the world. What if this ancient wisdom is available for you to uncover now? You are being called to think and listen with your ancient heart and soul, to tap into the part of you that remembers and knows. All ancient secrets are whispered forever in your ears. All mystic knowing blooms in your heart. All potent power pumps through your veins. That's Ace of Swords energy. You're being invited to step into your ancient knowingness, to be held by the rememberings of the star ancestors, to look a little deeper If you're feeling stuck, you're being called to do something different, to change your point of view. Creativity happens when we put together two things that don't belong, when we do the unexpected. So often a creative solution is right in front of us, but because we think the same thoughts and act the same way, we miss what's in the open. You are here to remember and uncover ancient secrets and transmissions, technology and wisdom that are so needed on the planet right now, to unlock your soul's memories of a time when we lived in harmony on earth and one day will again. So I feel like your ancestors are giving you a little reminder of who you are. I'll leave you with that. Thank you.